There we go. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday, and welcome to Rivalry Week. Week 14 of the season. It's already started. We've already had some big upsets. The rest of the big games are later today, starting at noon with the biggest one of them all. Not going to be a big introduction today because we got a lot to go over. You see, it's a two-man show this week. So top right corner, Mr. I Black Alex Elmore.
Yeah. No Cottrell this week. No Cottrell, just me
Okay.
and Bill.
No, can't do it. Can't do it. Top left corner, as always, my bitter rival today. Still my Buckeye brother from another mother. It's still brand new Papa Cottrell, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you, sir?
Feeling good, man. As good as that national championship has felt for the last year, like today feels like it starts the actual new season. Obviously we've had 11 games kind of leading up to this point here, but this feels like the actual start of the season here because this is outside of winning national championship. This is the second most important game. Like Big Ten championships are cool, other games are cool, but if it's not a natty, it is definitely beat Michigan. So I'm excited for today.
All right. Top right corner, Mr. Pac 12. Mr. I Black, Mr. Oregon Duck. This is a big rivalry game himself today. He needs to win on the road at a hostile environment, Husky Stadium. Mr. I Black Elmore, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm used to most of my life. This weekend has been symbolic for the Civil War with Oregon State. Usually it's played on Black Friday. The last couple of years, obviously, since the Pac-12 is no longer, it's just getting used to the culture change of this time of year, changing your focus from the Beavers to the Huskies. And today is a huge day. Everything's on the line. Huskies know if they beat us, they could eliminate us from the college football playoff. And we're just trying to guarantee ourselves a seat at the table. So this is a huge game today. I'm excited that our games are at separate times. I can watch the Michigan-Ohio State game as soon as they're off air. And then we're going to jump right over to the Oregon Duck-Washington game. So it's going to be a great day of football.
Alex, I will say, I know we're about to get into it, but I think you guys go from last week, potentially, if you would have lost to USC, I don't know if you make the playoff. I think you guys, if you win today and just maybe one or two things fall your way, I truly think you can get a first round bye.
Dude,
I agree.
Yeah, with Texas, well, we have some playoff stuff. We have the polls to talk about, and obviously with a couple of the big losses yesterday, that definitely changes things up. So
we are going to jump into that stuff rather quickly. This show is going to be fun today because obviously all three of our teams are involved, and depending on how it goes, Ohio State's definitely in no matter what happens. I think Oregon could probably move up and possibly get a bye. I think they can get knocked out. Obviously, we have to win to get in, to even have a chance to get in. I'll say that. So we could end up with one team in. We could end up with three teams in. It could be by the end of tonight. It could be a very interesting scenario for this show. So, but we're gonna go over the polls. We're gonna go over what happened last night, obviously, because there was a big upset last night. Depending on who you talk to, is going to change things or not. So we'll see. But without further ado, Alex, take it away, sir.
Shotgun, DC right, flip 90, dig, on the center, ready?
All right, welcome to another week of Break the Huddle. We kind of cover all the weekly news. This week, we're only going to have a couple of topics as it's going to be conversation heavy. So we're going to focus on the top 25, the polls that just came out. We're going to take a look at the updated bracket. We're going to take a look at some coaches this week that have been hired in the new positions. And then we're going to take a look at the best rivalries ranked in college football. We did not do the rankings. Our job is to critique the hell out of those rankings and tell you all who is the best rivalry in the sport. So we're going to start this off right away with the top 25 poll. Y'all want to take a quick look at this. Obviously, games have been played since the poll came out. Most notably, Texas A&M and Texas played last night. We'll obviously get into the score of that game here shortly and what happened in that game. But Texas A&M taking that loss in that 3-hole opens up a wide range for people to start moving. When you guys look at this poll, what's your initial thought process? Cottrell, let's start with you.
So for me, I think it is that jumbled bunch between 11 and 16. Obviously, Texas got the big win last night. I wonder, of course, assuming what happens in the Ohio State Michigan game. Like if Michigan wins, like that's obviously going to be a hard thing for Texas to jump in. But if Michigan loses there, then you got Vanderbilt kind of right there next to them. I mean, I would say the head-to-head might matter in that scenario, even though Vandy has only 2 losses and Texas has 3. Like I think that's a conversation that at least could be had. Then you look at the next team up from them, and that's a Utah team that is going to be idle. Like they don't have any opportunities for a conference championship this next week there. So how does the committee look at Texas having 3 wins versus the top 10? Although Utah only has 2 losses at this point. Same thing with Miami there, sitting at 2 losses, and then BYU only has 1 loss. But they did make the conference championship, and they will be playing Texas Tech there. So, I mean, depending on how that matchup goes, if BYU is in, I think we get a whole slew of different scenarios and, probably 2 teams that are deserving ultimately getting cut there because BYU is going to essentially steal a spot there. So for me, I think the most interesting part is the 11 to 16 range. And then the other piece of it is seeing where the committee ultimately ranked SMU. So last week we were on the show, we talked about SMU not being ranked. We talked about what it would potentially look like if the committee had JMU ranked over an SMU team. And obviously that's not the case here. So it's looking like that the ACC will get 1 team pretty much no matter what, unless, something crazy happens, for the ACC championship there. And looks like JMU, unless Tulane drops a game, looks like JMU, even sitting at 11-1, probably won't get a shot to make the college football playoff.
Bill, how about you?
I agree with a lot of it. I think the interesting is going to be BYU already won yesterday. Utah already won yesterday. So I don't think they're really in a position where they can get jumped. I think the big game today is the Miami game. I said this before. I think with what they did last year, Oregon is very telling. Last week with Oregon is very telling. I think as long as Alabama wins tonight and they make the conference championship game, I think if Miami goes on the road and beats a ranked Pittsburgh team, which would be then a similar opponent to Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame's going to get jumped. I really do. I think them having the schedule they had at the end, when all these teams are playing ranked wins or better teams, and they're sitting there playing cupcakes the last 2 weeks, they do not have a conference championship game to improve themselves. I think they're very, very vulnerable at number 9. Cottrell kind of went over the mixed match in between of everything, which was it's important. Texas is already in the clubhouse with a win. Vanderbilt has Tennessee today, so one of them is going to lose. If Vanderbilt loses on the road, I would expect Tennessee to take a jump, but they're not going to jump. They're not going to jump Texas. Michigan, I think, is the one you have to watch. I don't know how much they would value beating the best team in the country. If Michigan can pull off that win today, I don't know if they can close, the gap and get into the top 10. But that would make it really hard for Texas to get in. I think Texas with 3 losses, I don't think Texas can jump Michigan if Michigan wins today. So I think they're definitely rooting for Ohio State, and obviously that would make their loss to Ohio State look better. I think Notre Dame got hurt last night with Texas A&M losing. That loss doesn't look as great as it did 24 hours ago. I think they're very vulnerable. I do. I've heard a lot of people completely agree with me. I've heard a lot of people think that they're in no matter what. I would not feel that safe if I'm a Notre Dame fan with what has to go on today still. I agree with I'm getting really pissed off what they're doing with James Madison. I don't like it. I feel like they're going to shove Tulane or somebody else down our throat, and I don't think that's right. SMU is going to be very, very curious to see where they land on all this. That's actually going to be a big deal too. There's no way I think they're in the top 11. So again, you're talking about possibly kicking out 11 and 12 on these rankings. So if you're not in the top 10, you're probably not feeling super safe. Oklahoma has a bigger game today. I think there's going to be a lot of movement on these by Tuesday. I think this is going to look. It has potential anyway to look a lot different than it does right now.
I also think too, just to like kind of throw this in there about James Madison. I don't know if you guys have been like kind of keeping track of it, but I've seen that like on Twitter and social media in general there that they've been putting out the simulated like BCS standings of what that would have looked like if we were still in the BCS ages, like ranking teams from 1 to 25.
And when they do that,
the funny thing is that I would say up till week 12 or so, like it had been pretty close. Like you may see like Notre Dame at 10 on one and then Notre Dame at 12 on the other or something like that. But they have been relatively close here. But this week, they put it out and they did not have on the simulated BCS side, they didn't have SMU ranked at all. And they had James Madison ranked at 22. So I think it's very interesting how you look at things on paper, and I get it, BCS wasn't perfect, but you look at things on paper and you put things in the computer and things like that, and they kind of value James Madison as a 1-loss team more than SMU as a 3-loss team, even though SMU is in a Power 4 conference there. So just kind of one of the things that I just kind of wanted to throw in there because I do think it's somewhat important that we're not just glossing over a JMU team, again, that only has 1 loss at this point in the season.
Good morning, Justin. Good morning, Gene. Thank you for joining.
One thing I love about this poll is I actually like the fact that Tulane's in there because I really want to see a BYU Jake Retzlaff matchup. That's what I want to see. So I want to see Tulane get in there. I want to see BYU beat Tech for the Big 12 championship. And I want somehow for the rankings to work out to where we get a BYU Tulane matchup in BYU. I think it would be amazing. It would be an amazing storyline to follow. The other storyline I'm watching is that Miami, Oregon. I would love to get Mario Cristobal back to Autzen for a game. And let us Autzen fans show Mario what he really means to us. You know what I mean? He did so much for our community. But honestly, here's the thing. Miami is definitely going to be the odd man looking out. Even with a win today at Pitt, if they're able to pull that off, I don't see a way for them to jump BYU and get out of that and get into the 10 hole. And Miami's going to be on the outside looking in because they're not going to have a conference championship. They cannot make their conference championship. So like Miami sitting on that 12 spot, like they have to make a statement today. They have to they have to take care of business and beat Pitt by, I'm saying 2, possibly 3 scores to be able to jump BYU and jump Bama to get to that 9 hole. That's the only way they can be safe. So what they do with Miami is very interesting to me. Today's a huge game for them. Obviously, Oregon, Washington, that's a huge game. If Oregon loses, there's still a chance Oregon makes it in. So there's a lot up in the air right now. But Bill, for me, I have a quick question for you. So do you think that if Michigan is able to beat Ohio State today, that they're going to be able to jump up to that 10 hole, that 10 spot, just off that win alone without anything else happening?
It becomes interesting. They jumped up 3. Like I said, it's a lot of it's going to depend on what happens in front of them. I mean, if Vanderbilt loses, that's one by itself. That does, that takes care of itself. And then you get into that whole group right there. I've said before, I think they can get close. I think they can back in depending on what happens next week. So, like for instance, Alabama can win tonight, but if they go to the conference championship game next week and lose and have 3 losses, they're going to fall out. The same, Miami's going to sit there. Same thing with BYU. BYU made the championship, but if they go and lose to Texas Tech, they're going to fall out. So, they've already shown you they're keeping BYU on the edge right now as it is. So, I don't expect BYU to have a chance to stay in with a loss to Texas Tech. I don't necessarily think that's right, but they've shown you by not moving them up that's what's going to happen. They have to beat Tech next week.
That sweet spot is 12, Bill. I mean, you look at if you get up to 12, like you jump Miami essentially, like that's essentially I would say where you want to be, because then Texas Tech beating BYU, the way the first game looked, like I don't think that's crazy to say. Even if Bama does win today, like you said, if they lose that conference championship and they then have 3 losses, they're going to be out. So that moves you up 2 spots pretty much right away there. And as long as nothing crazy happens with actually, it wouldn't matter then, because those would be the two conference championships that you really worry about there, because then you'd be on the 10 line at that point, and then you'd have your SMU or whoever wins the ACC, and then your Tulane, James Madison, North Texas, whoever is the group of 5 team there. So I truly don't think it's that crazy. It would just be in my opinion, how would the committee view Vanderbilt beating a Tennessee team today and being 10-2 versus Michigan at 10-2 being the number one team in the country. I think, you should jump. You should. If you beat Ohio State today, I think you should jump everybody and get to that 12th line where I said you'd want to be there. But hopefully we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, it just gets real interesting because if everybody wins, like you said, you then have to group. You have to group Notre Dame, Michigan, Vanderbilt, Miami,
Texas.
and Texas. I mean, I guess Texas, but Utah, all in a group. I think that's not great for Utah, but I think you can make the argument between the other four is going to get real interesting. I would feel pretty confident falling in the top two of that group somehow, having obviously at that point having the best win you could possibly have in the country. And our losses would be on the road to USC and to Oklahoma, who is going to be somewhere in the top 6 or 7. So I would feel pretty comfortable there, but you can make arguments for other teams. So it's going to be it's going to be interesting. There'll be a lot of yelling, a lot of hurt feelings going on in the next 2 weeks, depending on what happens later today and everything else. But I mean, first and foremost, we got to take care of business here. So we got to win at 12, and if we do, then we'll see where the chips fall, and there's going to be a push to get a 4th Big Ten team in for sure. If not, then we got our shot. We need to take care of business. So,
Alex, and then for you, I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the show here, but right now you're sitting at 6, and Texas A&M did lose. So I'm curious to see how far the committee pushes them back. Like, do they put them, at 6 and keep them ahead of you? Do they put them behind you? I'm curious to see how that goes. But then also you look at the matchups there. So then you'd be on the 5 line. All you would need is a Bama win in the SEC championship or BYU win in the Big 12 championship, and you'd be sitting at home for a week. And potentially if Indiana or Ohio State, one of them lose, depending on how that game looks, one of them might fall out of the top 4 spots too. So you essentially get to sit at home in the 5 spot. Most likely, I think you're going to be there. I think they're going to drop A&M behind you, but you get to sit in the 5 spot and really just watch conference championship week and see if you get that first round bye. Obviously, we know how last year went for you. I still think the bye would be a good thing. After you're the only one that's experienced a bye in the college football playoff at this point. How would you feel about getting the bye? Would you rather have the home playoff game first to just kind of get everybody warmed up and, gearing to go? Like, what's your thoughts on Oregon's position right now?
Well, right now with Oregon's position, obviously the chips are kind of in our favor. I'm glad that they jumped Ole Miss. Ole Miss had jumped Oregon a couple weeks back after they dismantled Colgate or whatever college they played, which they did not deserve to jump Oregon for that victory after Oregon played Iowa in the same week. So I think this is really just the committee kind of righting a wrong that they had made earlier in the year. Honestly, with Texas A&M's loss, I don't know how far back they drop. I think Texas A&M drops back to 5. I don't think A&M drops out of the top 5 completely with that loss to Texas.
I agree.
I think that they're valuing Texas pretty highly. You can tell by where they're ranked right now with 3 losses. And obviously that's a huge win. So I don't think Texas A&M drops out of the top 5. I think Oregon kind of stays top 6. Our best chance and best bet to move up to that 4 spot would be the conference championship week. But I'm honestly thinking that us Oregon fans deserve a home playoff game. Last year, we had that first round bye. We obviously took care of Penn State in the conference championship game. And then we had the bye. And then we got dismantled by Ohio State. I want to keep the momentum rolling. I want to keep the ball going. I want to, if we aren't able to make that conference championship game with Michigan pulling out a win today, then I would like to sit in that 5 spot, take on whoever the 12th seed is, and let the chips fall where they may. If that's Tulane, if that's JMU, if Tulane jumps SMU and SMU is the team to be, I'm down for whatever it is. But I really want a home playoff game this year. We had the bye last year, did not pay off well for us. Give us the home game. Give us that extra revenue. That's how I'm feeling.
I'll be honest. I think there's a chance Texas A&M stays where they are. Call me crazy, but I think after next week, obviously, if Georgia wins the SEC, they'll get jumped. If Texas Tech wins the Big 12, they'll probably get jumped. I don't know. I mean, if you're looking at resumes, they're in that one loss fishbowl now. I don't know. I mean, I think the only argument, really, if I'm being honest, is Georgia. Texas Tech doesn't have the wins.
Texas Tech's only loss this season was without their starting quarterback. I'd argue that they are really like an undefeated team.
I get it, but I mean, you're still looking at
that.
Yeah. If you're looking at ranked wins and everything else, I mean, I think A&M's resume is just better.
A&M has one ranked win against Notre Dame. Like, look at their in-conference schedule. Nobody that A&M has beat this season has a winning record in the SEC. Like, their best conference win is LSU, and out of conference they play Notre Dame and who else?
Yeah, but the way that they're devaluing the Big 12. Tech's already devalued based on just being in the Big 12. Like, we're already seeing how they're valuing SEC versus Big 12. As far as rankings go, all that stuff. So,
see, I disagree with that because you're looking at an Ole Miss team that's also only has one loss, and they got Tech ahead of them. Like, they could have easily had Tech could be on the 7 line if you truly devalue the SEC. Like, if you truly value the SEC over the Big 12, like, fully, and there was a complete bias there, I think Ole Miss could absolutely have a claim to be ahead of Texas Tech, but that's not the case.
I mean, if you're going A&M versus Tech, I mean, you could say that. I mean, but so Tech's best win is what, BYU?
Yeah, BYU. I mean, they got the BYU win. They got a Utah win. They got trying to go off top of my head here, who else they've beaten this year. I mean, those would be the two quality ones for sure, like that I'm looking at on here. A&M does not have I mean, Notre Dame, yes, but conference wise, they don't have a leg to stand on with that. The only team that has a winning record in conference play that they've played was Texas, and we saw how that game looked yesterday at least in the second half.
It'll be interesting. I'm not saying they stay there. I'm just telling you, when they reveal these Tuesday, I won't be shocked if they're still sitting there at 3. Because like I said, I think Georgia's going to have every opportunity to go above them, and I think Texas Tech would as well. So, and possibly Oregon if Oregon gets in the Big Ten championship game. So that's where I think that hurts them. If you're going up against again, one loss, non-conference champion resumes, I don't know if anybody's going to be ahead of them.
I'm looking forward to our next topic here and Break the Huddle because it's like a continuation of this for me. And that would be, I know we're going to talk about coaches. Obviously, the elephant in the room is, where is Lane Kiffin going to end up? I'm very curious to see if and when Lane Kiffin decides to take the LSU job, how far back do they, devalue that Ole Miss team? Like, are they going to send Ole Miss on the road, even being at 11-1 right now, because they're losing their head coach? Are they going to just have them stand pat where they have them right now because they've essentially earned where they're at? Like, I'm very curious to see how the committee is going to value Lane Kiffin not being there for the rest of the season.
It's going to be the big question. I mean, you look at what they did to Florida State.
That's what I'm saying.
And that was a player. So, you took a undefeated conference champion out of the playoff because they didn't have their quarterback. I think a lot of people would argue a big-time head coach is probably more important than that player. So if he does leave, and it turns out he's leaving, and he is not coaching the Rebels through the playoffs, I promise you, all those committee people in the room are praying that doesn't happen, because they're going to have to. I don't care what you say, man. Like that's a big loss, and I think they would have to be seeded accordingly. And if that means, I don't know if there's a world where they don't get in, but again, they set a precedent for this already. So I don't know.
Here's the thing, though, Bill. Florida State, when this happened to them, unfortunately, they were in a 4-team playoff, right, which made it a little bit easier for them to drop 2 spots and be out. Now, with Ole Miss being at that 7th spot, they got to drop 5 spots, which is a huge drop for any team without a loss for them to drop. So, you know what I mean? It's like, I think Ole Miss gets in.
Technically, they would only have to drop to 11.
True. Okay. Technically, that is true. Ole Miss has already announced who their interim head coach will be if Lane Kiffin does take.
And ain't Lane Kiffin. Don't care.
Anyway, it's Joe Judge, former New York Giants head coach. He was the
that job.
He was great. He did real well there. He did real well as a head coach.
I'm just giving news. I'm not saying opinions. I'm just saying what they've announced. All right. There's a lot of news circulating. There was a real estate agent in Louisiana that supposedly sold Lane Kiffin a $1.8 million house. Supposedly Lane Kiffin's son was on Xbox Live talking about how they're moving to Louisiana soon. And there's other people saying that he's just messing with everybody and staying at Ole Miss. So I just looked it up. There's still no updated news. Hopefully he says something before we're off the air today, so we can reveal that to you guys before we start some football today. Which honestly he should. I mean, shoot, he's an ego guy. He should want to announce it right before kickoff of all the games, so the whole day they just talk about Lane Kiffin to LSU. I want to know the news now.
I think he is an egomaniac, and with Ole Miss still potentially having the ability to play for the SEC championship game, I truly think if somehow, some way, if Auburn pulls off the upset in the Iron Bowl, I truly think Lane Kiffin will be like, you know what, I'm going to give it another week. Like, we're not going to have any decision. I know he has a deadline. I know it is. I know it is, but I'm telling you, I can see it now. If Ole Miss makes the SEC championship, because right now I think it's easy. You know, if right now Ole Miss isn't sitting in a position to go to the SEC championship, their regular season is effectively over after getting that win yesterday, and so you really don't have anything to worry about. I think at that point with the college football playoff, you got like 3 weeks to get the guys like ready, motivated with a new interim coach. However, just giving them 7 days with this interim guy going into the SEC championship game, I think Ole Miss's, athletic director, that whole staff there, I think they would say, you know what, we made it to the SEC championship game. We'll give him an extension here, but we need this decision at some point. Or they say, hey, he's announcing that he's going to LSU and he's still coaching for the SEC championship game, and we'll go from there. But I think one way or another, I truly think we don't have a decision until that Auburn-Alabama game fully gets settled.
I agree. I doubt he does it in the next hour or so, because once Ohio State, Michigan, and all the other games kick off at 12, people are just going to be like, well, I'm going to go watch football now. So he's going to want a window to where it's, I said it last week, the guy's an egomaniac. He loves being the center of attention. A lot of things he does is set up the way for it to come off that way. He's going to want his moment in the light to say he's either staying or he's going or whatever the hell he's going to do. So I will be really curious to see when this gets released. I'm sure the committee has asked a million questions as well. Like both you guys pointed out, because I think they need to know. And again, depending on what happens, man, I don't think it's crazy to see them slide. I really don't. Joe Judge is not some. It'd be different if like this was like old school, like he had like Nick Saban on the sidelines, or like it was Saban, and like, all right, well, worst case, like they hand the program over to like Sarkisian for a week, or Lane Kiffin for a week. Like there's not that like at least it's a known proven name. Joe Judge does nothing for me. If they're like, oh yeah, Joe Judge sucks. That would be even more reason for me to be like, yeah, they're out. They're not playing. So I can't. I will say this. I watched his interview yesterday. I do think he is little bit.
Fall for it, Bill.
I'm not falling for it. But I will tell you this. I don't think that he is naive to the weight of what his decision is going to carry. Because I think it's been me reading between the lines. I think it's been made clear to him that if he comes on today and picks LSU, that there's no world where they're going to let him coach.
Revoked. Yep.
Yeah. Correct. Where they're going to let him coach Ole Miss the rest of the year. So
no, they already said that Joe Judge is the coach if he leaves. Like if he announces he's going to LSU, Joe Judge is taking over the program the rest of the year. They've already said it.
I know in my heart at the end of the day he's going to do what Lane wants to do. So I'm not falling for anything. I do think he is struggling with what will happen, to his kids in this process if he does leave. So
nah, his
we'll see.
daughter's dating an LSU player. She's just going to transfer too.
And then his son is going to be a 4-star recruit that'll probably end up.
I meant the
anyway.
not his kids. I meant like the football players,
Bro,
not his actual kids.
You know damn well Lane Kiffin doesn't give a damn about those players.
About damn kids. Look, I would like to think he does because look, for me as a coach, I have the best season in Ole Miss history. I'm going in as the number 6 seed in the college football playoff without a conference championship game to have to play. I'm getting a home game. Like, I'm not leaving Ole Miss for the state of Louisiana. Like, in my mind, I'm not leaving. And a lot of people agree with me online, but just like you said, it seems to be what's best for Lane. Even though I think if he stays at Ole Miss, he could turn Ole Miss into a better overall program than LSU. In the next 10 years, they'll be like, we could be having this conversation where Ole Miss is a better program than LSU. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of stuff he can build at Ole Miss. So I think he should stay. He missed the playoff last year by 1 game. This year, he's cemented his spot in the college football playoff. I think he's got to stay. Stay.
I think it's just really interesting right now, just kind of pivoting off of Lane here, how much he is affecting this coaching cycle. Like, I think, Florida obviously was waiting on Lane. LSU is still waiting on Lane. And if Lane leaves, Ole Miss is going to be a big job opening as well there. But I just think it's kind of crazy how all of this, like all these programs decided to fire their coaches during the season. And you're seeing all the guys that you typically would in a normal coaching cycle that would take that, hop up like a Clark Lee or, Eli Drinkwitz, like even Kurt Signetti. Like, you've seen all these coaches sign extensions to say, hey, we're staying at our schools. We're not moving to go anywhere. So I think this may be a case of, some of these big time programs like LSU might have to go the young route. Like, they might have to go get a coordinator that doesn't have any head coaching experience because, so many coaches have already signed their extensions. I know John Summerall has been, Tulane's coach has been a big topic of discussion, probably leaving there, but there's still so many big time job openings. Auburn's still open. Florida's obviously open, LSU, Penn State. So I'm very curious to see how these positions ultimately get filled after the Lane Kiffin domino falls.
Well, let's take a quick look. This week, we've had a lot of coaching hires. Let's take a quick look at some of the hires from this week. Obviously, Oregon State, the Beavers have officially hired a new offensive coordinator. They have hired a new head coach in former co-offensive coordinator Alabama, Jamarcus Shepard, as their new head coach. Stanford went out and got a former quarterback, Tavita Pritchard, as their new head coach. Colorado State went out and got Jim Mora Jr. I forgot he was even still coaching from UConn. And then Oklahoma State.
He turned that UConn program around, dude.
Yes,
I know he did. Yes, he did. And then Eric Morris from North Texas will be replacing Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. Now, from what I'm being told, Eric Morris will continue to coach North Texas throughout the rest of the season. And if they make the college football playoff, he will coach North Texas in that college football playoff as well. So his official duties at Oklahoma State won't officially begin for a couple more weeks at least. And if North Texas is able to make the college football playoff, it'll be a couple more months until he's able to take that job over. Exactly.
That has the potential to be a great hire for Oklahoma State. Eric Morris is definitely one of the up and coming names in college football. Cutting your teeth at a place like North Texas that does not have anywhere near the resources or the money. And get it, don't get me wrong. Texas is a big state with a lot of recruits that fall through the cracks because a lot of good recruits that fall through the cracks just because there's so many of them. But to be able to win at North Texas, I think that's I love that hire for Oklahoma State. I'm sure a lot of their fans probably wanted a bigger name, but they're getting a very good coach.
I'm very curious to see, though, like Colorado State firing Jay Norvell, I would say was kind of a surprise there. I know it happened a while ago, but I'm curious to see where or if Jay Norvell finds a spot somewhere or if Mike Gundy ultimately gets a spot somewhere.
I will say this.
Interesting. I thought that, like, if James Franklin didn't end up at Virginia Tech, I thought that Mike Gundy – really? Okay.
I thought Gundy at Arkansas was the –
Yeah. Mike Gundy needs to be able to go somewhere where he can be himself. And for good and bad, there's both sides to it. I don't think he's a Virginia Tech type guy. I think the SEC he fits in anywhere he goes. That kind of Southern boy attitude and all that stuff. They love that down there. I said this in the group chat. I don't know where Florida and Penn State go. I think Florida put way too many chips in the Lane Kiffin basket, and I don't think that's going to pay off, obviously. And Penn State, everybody they had at the top of their list said thanks, but no thanks. We're going to stay where we are. That's really surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, and also you got to think about the coaches that are also available. Is like Chip Kelly, for example, just got let go from the Raiders. Does he come back to college, look for another offensive coordinator spot? Does he come back to college and look for a head coaching job? And that's another coach that can now be thrown in the name, or throw into the I don't know what I'm trying to say now, but throw in the mix here. So there's a lot of coaches that are out there that are available, a lot of jobs that are open and available. I'm not sure where Penn State goes next. I'm curious who ends up as their head coach, as Eli Drinkwitz, who was rumored to be going to Penn State. He just signed an extension at Missouri. What was it, 3 days ago?
Yeah.
And maybe he was like $10.7 million a year or some crazy amount like that maybe he probably wasn't even worth. But that's what happens when all these jobs open.
I think the one thing that's been kind of weird too is that, Alex, I'm sure you can appreciate this, but we've had really no news about coordinators really getting interviewed for these positions. Like Will Stein, I haven't heard his name come up once in really any of these high profile jobs here. As far as Brian Hartline goes, like haven't really heard his name come up. Of course, there's rumors about, like maybe he interviewed for the Penn State job and things like that. Like, and Alex, I know with Will Stein, like we said, UCLA would be a good fit for him, but like there hasn't actually been smoke around some of the best coordinators in college football at this time yet. And I'm kind of surprised by that. And I'm also thinking that maybe behind closed doors, with all these coaches signing these extensions, maybe at some point when either teams lose in the playoffs or you kind of just get a clearer picture of what the outcome will look like for some of these teams, maybe we get more words about what's happening there. But I would say that's been the one surprising part for me so far.
Well, I think for at least in Oregon, that it's weird. The coach that's getting a lot of head coaching buzz right now for Oregon isn't Will Stein. It's actually Tosh Lupoy. Lupoy, I always mispronounce his name. Lupoy, they're Oregon's defensive coordinator, and he's getting a lot of headway around the Cal job that just opened up. He used to go to Cal, so they're saying that he's actually the top candidate for their open position. Dan Lanning came into the mix in the press and said, "Hey, I think that Tosh is going to make a fantastic head coach when the right job comes available," is what he said the day after the Cal job came available. So it's almost like a little slight at, yes, he's going to be a fantastic head coach, but Cal's not the job for him. So that's, for me, that's the weirdest thing, is that Will's not getting a lot of noise around him, but Tosh is. So
but doesn't that surprise you though?
It does surprise me, especially with the UCLA job open. A lot of the other higher, like for example, I don't know, maybe North Texas might be a good spot for him as well. I mean, there's a few spots that are still being coached right now that they aren't necessarily in the position where they have to find a head coach yet. So I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I don't know if in December, as December rolls on, if the chatter is going to start to pick up. But I think Will Stein might be in place in Eugene for another season.
I think it's going to be interesting with both of you guys, because I think it's going to, not saying one or either leave, but I think it starts to really, I think if they interviewed places before and teams were like, we want to go with a guy with experience, now you kind of got to circle back and say, is it better to go with a mid-name who's had mid-success, or do we just go with the younger guy now and take our lumps for a year, if that even happens? So I think it'll be interesting to see the next couple of weeks if either one of those guys get interviewed again. I mean, Hartline was connected to the Penn State job. He definitely interviewed for it. Will Stein, I haven't followed that closely, but I won't be surprised if their names start coming up again in this next cycle, because obviously there's a lot of programs that need coaches, and there's 2 huge programs that need coaches. So, you know, the Florida and Penn State got to hire somebody soon, like real soon.
Absolutely.
You're also going to be stuck with what's left, and that's usually not a good thing. That usually equals you looking for another coach in 2 years.
Penn State might ultimately have to hire their interim guy. I mean, he's kind of got a little spark there from them. Like, they keep messing around, they're going to have to hire him.
How sad was that? They got the win this weekend, and then the crowd is straight chanting his name. Like, the dude, come on now, Penn State, be better. Like, I know this year is a struggle for y'all. I know it's a struggle, but y'all don't need to continue the struggle.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be a mistake. I'm just saying the way things are looking, the way there's been, maybe I've just been living under a rock. I haven't heard any true smoke about people going to Penn State to interview, even like basically considering it. Like, it feels like Penn State, we talked about it when it first happened. That's a top 10 job opening in the country. And it feels like everybody's looking at them like, yeah, no, we're good. They're good. We don't want it. We don't even think about it. Give me more money to stay here. I'm cool with it.
Well, shoot, James Franklin's already taken 4 of their recruits this week. He's already flipped 4 commits from Penn State to Virginia Tech.
And more coming on visits this week. Yeah,
exactly. So Penn State is not the place to be right now, and people are starting to see that. But we've been on this we've been on this subject for a little bit. I have another subject before we get into recaps, previews, predictions, all that good stuff. So I'm going to move along if you guys are cool with it. And you guys will get a chance to box it out during this one, because we're going to talk about the top 25 best rivalries in college football. But we did not make this list. We got this list online, but we are going to tear it apart, nitpick it, and put the order in the right spot, at least the top 5. When you look at this best college 25 college football rankings for the rivalries, what are you guys seeing? What stands out as the worst ranked and the best ranked matchup on this list?
I got number 1 right, and after that, I don't care.
I think they got the top 3 right. For my money, just kind of nitpicking, I would move Army Navy up. USC Notre Dame is a great rivalry. I just don't know if I'd have them at 4. Like,
it's not what it used to be.
I can hear arguments for them to be behind Georgia, Florida, Miami, Florida State. Like, I'd be looking at them somewhere probably like 7 or 8 area. Alex, I'm going to give your team some credit here as well. I think the Civil War is a little too low. 13. I'm not sure it belongs there. You can talk about the domination all you want to, but just the and for me, the rivalry is the hatred. It's the the pageantry, it's the everything that you look forward to. I know it's not the same now because you guys aren't in the same conference, which could have played a part in it. But like, just knowing that every Black Friday, it was we got to take on the Beavers, and that was like its thing.
That's what's hurting it now. I think it's not on Black Friday now. They're not in the same conference anymore. I think if both those things were still true, I think it's absolutely in the top 10 somewhere. So I can
understand that.
Yeah, and I think that's what's hurting it now.
It's hard to have a rival when you're not in the same conference. Notre Dame is a little bit of a caveat there because they're not in the conference. But yeah, ever since Oregon State and Oregon are not in the Pac-12, it's kind of really lost its luster. And next time I meant to mention, playing the Beavers early in the season, like week 3. Like I said, it's just not the same. Yeah, exactly. It's like 70 degrees out still. I want the fog. I want the rain. I want the drop balls, the fumbles. I want all that in the matchup. So now for me, I'm looking at the Oregon Washington as being the best rivalry that the Ducks have, and we're gonna get to see that today.
I think Pitt, West Virginia is one of those sneaky ones, and then I also think Michigan State. Like, I know it's Michigan's second biggest rivalry there, but for Michigan State, that is a pure hatred rivalry. Michigan always looks at them as like little brother. They're like, we're focused on the game. Like, of course we want to beat Sparty, but we don't really care about you guys. Like, our true rival is Ohio State. But that rivalry has over the years has definitely showed you a ton of like true hatred there. So I think 17 might be a little low for that one as well.
I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I think the Alabama and Georgia all the way down there is weird to me, just because I guess they don't play. It's not a rivalry game because they don't play each other every year. Minnesota, Wisconsin, they've been playing forever.
Hey, yo, while we're
Washington,
talking about this in the chat, please put in who your favorite college football rivalry matchup is, and we'll make sure to touch on those as well while we're talking about this.
some of these are definitely like, no, you're good. Some of these are definitely living on like the reputation of what they were 30 years ago, though.
My opinion is if your rivalry game doesn't have a name to it, like it's already, it can't be in the top 10 for me. Like it has to have a name.
Like I would argue, I mean, I can do without Florida State, Miami, Florida State, Florida right now. I mean, that has not been like I remember growing up what those games were, but I'm talking like the early 90s to the early 2000s, and they haven't been super relevant since then. You saw how nasty the Egg Bowl got yesterday, which I guess I don't want to say I underranked that one a little bit, but that rivalry is a big deal. I do think I do agree with Coachella more. I don't think Army Navy should be any lower than 4. And that's not disrespectful to them. I mean, it's just the only ones above it at that point are in my eyes, the bona fide top 3 in the sport. USC's been so bad for so long before, really the last 2 years that Notre Dame just owned that rivalry. Yale and Harvard being there is fun. It's not great football, but I mean, they've played each other every year for like 100 years and some in a row. So some of these other ones, like I said, I think are a little, I don't say wishy-washy, but like Louisville, Kentucky that's geographical. That's like, I don't know how great of a football rivalry it is. I would say, if I was going to say actually one of these underranked, I think Iowa State could probably be a little higher.
Just lost Alex.
Just dropped off. Just tired.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I definitely could see Iowa and Iowa State potentially being higher, especially the fact they still obviously play every year there as well. I'm also curious to see if we ultimately have any new matchups kind of, get into the fold here. Like, does Oregon and Penn State, let's say, for example, like I know they only going to play each other like a couple times over the course of 3-4 years there or whatever, maybe once or twice, but like the new rivalries, like what do those ultimately look like? Maybe a Washington and I don't know, Indiana, like I don't know, just the new matchups with the new conference aligning, things like that. Like, do we get a new age true rivalry where there's kind of some hatred there?
I think it'll be tough just because with the revolving schedule, I mean, the way the Big Ten's doing it anyway, unless it's something they feel like, hey, like to your point, hey, this might be a rivalry game. You're not going to play them every year. Like our two protected games are you and Michigan State, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, I don't know who your second game is. Is it Penn State? That's not
no,
Penn State.
Penn State is not. Michigan is one, and I don't know the other one, to be honest. I don't know.
Everybody has 2 because you guys are Washington and
not everybody. I think there's some.
No, we only have Washington.
There's some that don't have
game.
2.
So I mean, and just for all the Penn State fans out there, before you get upset, yes, the Penn State Ohio State game is not on there because, like we've always said, Ohio State doesn't give a shit. Sorry.
Yeah, Michigan is our only protected game. I mean, I think eventually maybe it can be back there, but I mean, you look at the last 10 years, James Franklin kind of ruined that. Like we didn't play all the time before, but James Franklin definitely ruined that by losing every single year. So it's like the Michigan State game essentially for you, Bill, but it's not in state and we weren't playing especially now, like we're not going to be playing every single year anymore. So that's why that's not there.
Makes sense. But let's just one more time here, guys. Yeah, I mean, I think I think they got it right. I think you guys are right though. So get USC Notre Dame out of there. I think you look at the early 2000s. I think that's a better rivalry, more of a top 10 matchup. for this list. Anything else about the rivalry list before we kind of move on to recaps, previews, and all that fun stuff?
No, let's go.
Let's do it. Boom, recaps from last week. So we picked 2 games from last week to recap. That's the Oregon USC, Missouri Oklahoma. And then obviously yesterday on Black Friday we had 2 really huge matchups in Georgia Tech, and Texas versus Texas A&M that we're also going to kind of recap for you. So that's kind of what we're looking at today. Bill, you want to take it away?
We'll start with your boys. We'll go down and we'll start in Eugene. USC came to town. USC left with a big fat L. Oregon, big win. Say somewhat of a statement win for the Ducks. I think it's a win they had to have, but they did it in a fashion where it was, I'm not going to use the word dominant, but in control the whole time. I think it went back and forth a little bit at the beginning, and then Oregon in the second half. I feel really towards the second half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter, defense really stepped up and really put the clamps down. And then Dante Moore and company added another 2 touchdowns, and that was kind of it. Again, I think this game was telling for me in a lot of ways. I think it's crucial for Oregon to host a game in the playoff if they don't get a bye. And on top of everything else, they were rewarded in the standings, and they jumped Ole Miss as they should have because they played a better team. I think this. I don't think there's a way Oregon falls out. I mean, if they win today, there's not. I don't think even if they make the championship game, I don't think there's a way they fall out. But we'll get into that game later. But this is a big week. This is a big week for the Ducks. It's a big week for Alex and company. They had to win this game. I think they had to win it, convincingly, and they took care of business. They really did, and pretty much put USC's season in the trash can. And they survive and advance to have the privilege of playing a rivalry game today. That if they win, I think they're locked into the playoff.
And then I'll go next here. I think if you're an Oregon fan, that's one of those games that you leave feeling very optimistic. I think Oregon has done a great job of not having Decorian Moore, and obviously they haven't had Evan Stewart all season, but you don't have those weapons, and the offense still looks prolific. Dante Moore still been moving the ball down the field, and they had a great rushing attack that game as well. Kenyon Sadiq is a hell of a player there too, and you bring him back.
Best tight end in the country. Best tight end in the country.
I'll give you best tight end in the country.
Yeah, that good.
He is as good as advertised there. So I think you have a lot to be happy about offensively. I think defensively, you definitely still have questions. I'm not saying it's a true concern moving forward there. You did turn over Maeva twice there, and it was him pressing in the fourth quarter there, or later on in that game, might have been the third quarter. But he was pressing there. But as a whole, though, just getting 1 sack on him there. Like, I thought the game was pretty back and forth up until it got to the point where USC had to score every time Oregon scored. Because in the second half, it felt like, all right, Oregon got the ball. They're going to drive down the field. They're going to put points up on the board. USC, you have to respond. And it got to the point where USC wasn't doing it. In the first half, I thought they did a pretty good job of going back and forth with Oregon. Second half, though, that wasn't the case. Then, give credit to Oregon there. And, I think given all the injuries that they've had, they are smiling from ear to ear that they are now in a position where we can beat Washington. And honestly, if I'm Oregon, I would hope that Ohio State wins today so we can just have that extra bye week, get healthier, and, have everybody as close to all systems go come the playoffs.
Yeah, one thing about this Oregon USC game is, one, I'd like to see our secondary truly get challenged. I feel like the last few weeks we haven't really played a lot of passing prolific teams. It was nice to see us see what a good passing team looks like. Obviously, Iowa is not a good passing team. Wisconsin, Minnesota, those aren't teams that you're like, oh my gosh, this passing attack. But USC came in, and Jaden Maeva looked great. 306 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have the 2 interceptions. But I love what the Oregon defense really clamped down on the run, really made USC one-dimensional, made the defensive game plan a little easier to handle. But but the game was super sloppy. I mean, there was 19 penalties for 233 yards. Like they always say, like there's a holding or there's a penalty on every single play. It's whether they call it or not. But I feel like the refs this game really kind of controlled the pace of the game. Like there wasn't really a section of this game was like, oh, this is smooth. This is just like a smooth, good-looking football game. It was just gritty. It was hard hitting. It was penalties left and right. And this is truly what, a USC Oregon matchup was like, back in the Pac-12 days. Like it was nice to see, the offenses go at it, just the old rivalry kind of renewed. But I need to see Oregon clean some stuff up today. We can't be walking in to Husky Stadium today and pulling off 11 penalties for 130 yards and think that we're going to walk out with a W. That's just not going to happen on the road. So we got to clean some things up. But just like you said, we don't expect Decorian Moore to play today either. We expect him to be out and kind of rest up another week. But luckily, we have some other great receivers that are really stepping up, just like Kenyon Sadiq had 6 receptions last year, 2 touchdowns. Malik Benson showing that he could also is potentially he has that number one capable quality wide receiver. 4 catches, 67 yards. Jeremiah McClellan, Jamari Johnson, Noah Whittington catching the ball out the backfield. Just so many weapons were able to kind of show up last week and make up for the loss of production. And I'm excited to see what we do for Washington today. But it was a good one by the Ducks. Where to next, Bill?
We'll go top right. We'll go Missouri. Headed into Oklahoma to face the Sooners last week. Oklahoma, another big win. Again, kind of the same situation as the Ducks. Got to win this game to get to this weekend. You got another one you got to win today. But Oklahoma's defense has showed back up the last 2 weeks, kind of out of nowhere. It's been very interesting. Missouri, Bo Babula started. Could tell he wasn't 100%, but I mean, he played as well as he could. I think he still gave them the best chance to win. Game very low scoring, very field position oriented. John Mateer had one really, really good drive. The rest of the game for me was kind of herky jerky. But again, Oklahoma, their defense really never let Missouri in that game. Held control of it. Like I said, low scoring game, but big win. And like I said, they're in the same boat as Oregon. They survive and they advance today. And who do they play today?
Who?
Duke. Who?
Who does who play?
Oklahoma.
LSU.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I said Duke.
I have no idea.
I thought he said who.
I heard Duke also, and I was like, who plays Duke?
So why the hell are they playing Duke?
No. Who? Not Duke.
Yeah. But
Carolina.
Fresno State. They have LSU at home today. Obviously, game they should win, but you never know. LSU has the talent, regardless of the record to beat them. So Missouri, this is pretty much the final nail in the coffin for everything. Not sure who they finish up with today, but they'll be ready to go bowling in a couple weeks. And like I said, I don't know if I would have gave the coach that starts 7-0 and ends up 7-4 every year, $10.7 million raise, but that's just me.
Look, here's what I'm gonna say. I said the same thing last week, where I was kind of comparing the John Mateer injury early in the year to the Bo Prabula injury, and how I felt like John Mateer needed to play against Texas to kind of make sure Texas or Oklahoma had a chance at the college football playoff. But last week I said Bo Prabula should not play. The season's over, and he stepped up. He played 2 interceptions, did not look great passing, and also had -1 rushing yards on 8 attempts. He did not look like he was ready for that Oklahoma front 7. And Missouri's defense really did step up. John Mateer did not have his best game. It was just like you said, Bill. It was kind of very sloppy to watch. I was watching this game. It was just very sloppy, uncoordinated. It felt like Missouri really had a chance to win this game. But Oklahoma's defense really kind of stepped up. Ahmad Hardy had 300 yards rushing 2 weeks ago. They were able to hold him to 3.4 yards per carry or 57 yards last week. Huge step up by the Oklahoma defense. Oklahoma's 1 game away. They just got to take care of business today, and they're in the college football playoff. John Mateer goes playoff hunting.
Yeah, and I think that for Oklahoma, it didn't look great. It was an ugly game. I think, we talked about it last week that this was one of those games earlier in the season where if they would have Missouri would have went into this game 100% healthy. Like, I know Pabula played, but he looked rusty. He looked bad. He looked like Mateer looked, honestly, that game against Texas, Alex was kind of alluding to there. But if you're Oklahoma at this point in the season, you survive, you advance, you come out unscathed, and you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You're not going to, I'd say it takes something drastic for you to get a first round bye. So at this point, you just survive, you just advance, and you come out of the game healthy and, really ready to make a run in the playoffs. So it was an ugly game, very uneventful, but at the end of the day, if you're Oklahoma, you have to be happy that you got the win and, avoided the upset.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, this time of year, nobody's teams are really healthy. Everybody's banged up, everybody's hurt, or at least has ailing something. And you're playing teams now that have been playing for 3 months, and you're getting, even a team that you should beat, you're still getting the best version of that team now. They've figured everything out. They're playing their best football of the year, even if you're better than them. So, a lot of people use survive in advance, and some people think it's a cliche, but it's not. Like, you're not getting, unless you're playing, like we joke about the SEC playing like the Citadel last week, stuff like that. But if you're playing even a mid-pack team in the SEC or the Big Ten or wherever, you are getting the best version of that team now. Like, you know what I mean? You're not going to blow them out like you do in week 3 when they're still trying to figure stuff out. So all these conference games, man, they all matter. They're all important. You can't take your eye off the prize for a second, because if you do, you'll lose, and it's catastrophic to lose this time of year. So, you survive in advance is, unfortunately, it's the right term. You got to get the win in the right column and just move on to next week. We'll go bottom right. This game, Georgia Tech. It didn't live up to the billing of last year's, but I don't think anything could have. For me, like I said, that game was so much fun. I was up texting Cottrell at 1:30 in the morning as it was still going on. It was one of the wildest games I've ever watched, and again, it was fun because you're sitting there talking to somebody who's watching it, in live time with you. A little bit more lower scoring this year. Haynes King just really had no support. Georgia's defense came in. I've said this for the last couple of weeks. They're starting to look like Georgia. This is a weird. It's almost like a reverse Kirby Smart team. Usually, beginning of the year, when they win national championships, everybody's like, "That's the team." They're the team to beat. Blah 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 blah, and they dominate all year, and they get in and they beat everybody. This team started off the year, I don't want to say shaky, but they didn't look like a national championship contender to me right away. And week after week, they've got a little bit better. They've got a little bit more consistent. Defense has shown glimpses of being dominant. And they went into Georgia Tech and they shut that offense down. That offense, listen, Georgia Tech has not lost this year because of their offense. They lost because of their defense. And they made Haynes King and that offense look very pedestrian yesterday. Big win for Georgia, another ranked win. Officially kind of the end for Georgia Tech now. And Haynes King, been a fan of him for a couple of years. I know you guys have been as well. Curious to see if he plays in the bowl game or not. I think he will. And they should get a decent bowl game. But they are one of those teams that unfortunately are officially done with the playoff.
This game was sloppy. I wanted it to be one of those kind of slobber knockers that we talk about from week to week on this show, but this absolutely was not that. And I do give a lot of credit to Georgia's defense. Georgia Tech is a team who, if they've had success this year, it's been being a balanced team. Georgia Tech is a team that can run the ball and run the ball very well. Well, Georgia didn't allow them to do so. They kind of made them a one-dimensional bunch there, and they tried to make Haynes King beat them with his arm, and that wasn't the case. 16-9, Georgia's offense never really got rolling in this one, and while the score was 16-9, it was one possession game. And if you watch the game, Georgia Tech did have the opportunity to go down and potentially tie it at the end there. To me, this game was never really in doubt. Like this was a one-sided one score game, if that makes sense. Like they got the ball late. It was a Hail Mary, and really didn't have a shot there. But I thought, as low scoring and as kind of ugly as this game was, I thought Georgia looked, at least defensively, they looked dominant in this one, and there wasn't really a doubt there. So give credit to Georgia for handling their business. Alex, you're on mute, buddy.
You're on mute,
I got you. My bad. No, yeah, just like you said, this was very sloppy. And the game was never really in question. It was 16-6 before Georgia Tech put a late field goal on with like 5 minutes left. And they did have a chance to kind of drive down, but Georgia Tech never really looked like they had it going. If anything, I want to give a shout out to Georgia Tech's defense, though. They looked fantastic all game, kept them in it, held Georgia to 16 points. Gunnar Stockton did not look like the Gunnar Stockton we've seen all year. So Georgia Tech's defense came to play today, which, just like Bill said earlier in the season, Georgia Tech's losses was more on the defense's shoulders. Today, the defense really stepped up and actually did their part. So I thought it was a good game, but I was definitely hoping for more of last year's Georgia Tech, where it was about 47-41, triple overtime, whatever it was, game of the year. But no, I mean, it is what it is. Georgia pulled out the victory, and their season continues to roll on.
Crazy enough, triple overtime is underselling it because they went to 8 overtimes.
That's right. I can't remember. For some reason, it was
absolutely
crazy.
ridiculous. But definitely wasn't that this year, though.
It was not. It was about the exact opposite as you could get from the game last year.
Yeah.
Last one left. Big game that happened last night. Big game that, it starts to shake up the college football playoff a little bit. Depending on, again, I think we all agree A&M is safe, but, very curious to see what happens with Texas now. Aggies went down to Austin. Did not fare well. Longhorns come out with a big win, I guess, to keep their hopes alive. It's going to be the age-old argument. All the stuff I'm seeing online is already annoying. It's just Texas just slanting the argument and making points that nobody's making. But
Sarkisian is rich.
That's his job. That is his job.
It is. You're right. But there's not one person anywhere in this country that said they're not in the playoff because they lost to Ohio State.
Correct.
That's not why they're in the playoff. And that's their talking point right now. We just won't schedule Ohio State, and that's not why you're not in, bro.
Okay, cool. If you're a 2-loss team and you lost to Florida, guess what? You still might not be in. You might not be in.
Correct. You're out because you lost to Florida on the road, who's a 3-win team, and you went to overtime with Kentucky and Mississippi State, and they both stink. That's why you're not in. Regardless, big win for them last night. It was funny. I was watching it, and I was literally getting ready to send a text, and Cottrell actually sent a text saying Arch just doesn't get it, and I was about to send something very similar. He just goes through these drives where he looks like he doesn't have a clue, and then out of nowhere he'll put a drive together where he'll put 3 gorgeous throws together, and I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't know if he excels against certain looks. I don't know if he really needs to have an offensive coordinator that can really scheme things open, and if it's there, he sees it. I don't know what it is, but they got to figure it out one way or the other, because if this team does make the playoff, they're going to play a good team that's going to have a good defense, and he's got to be more consistent for that team. Flip side of it for me, I think to some degree A&M's kind of been playing with fire a little bit for a while, and I think it all kind of caught up with them last night. But a couple injury scares in that game. To Cottrell's other point, I don't think A&M's going to be mad. They're going to sit home most likely and have a week to rest up before they might host a game or have to go on the road. There was a couple scary things last night. They had a couple really good players get banged up, but I think Texas's defense at the end all be all was the deciding factor in the game for me. They got stops when they had to, a couple big plays. Yeah, I mean Texas, I guess, is still at some point here has a heartbeat somehow.
I just want to harp on the point that you made about Arch because it's second half, he looked great. But to me, I think I know he won't unless Sark leaves. I know he won't hit the portal. And even if Sark leaves, I think there's a shot that he still stays where he's at. But I almost feel like Texas is doing, and a lot of schools do this, but I almost feel like Texas is doing him a disservice because to me, I feel like Arch hasn't been developed. I feel like Sark has been coaching to win football games, which is his job. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if Arch wants to truly go to the NFL and be a, top talent and be a starting quarterback in the league, he has to go somewhere where he will get developed. Because for me, I think you see when Arch has his success, it's when he's having success on the ground. Like if you noticed, like in that second half there, he had the one big run and then he had the touchdown run. And then you kind of saw things really get rolling for him. It's almost like he is a, traditional running quarterback that can also pass. Like he reminds me of, and obviously he's not the same kind of athlete, but it reminds me of how Kyler was in college, how Lamar was in college. Now, of course, I'm not comparing the two as far as like their play styles, but Arch feels like, and if you watch him all season, he feels like he should be a run first quarterback, but he's not the same type of athlete that, your typical run first quarterbacks are. So the arm has to get there. And it just has not lived up to that 5-star billing of an arm. But again, once he gets that momentum rolling, you saw it in that game. Even the touchdown that he threw to Wingo in the back of the end zone there on the run. If Wingo doesn't stretch up as high as possible and get that foot down, like that could have potentially been an overthrow to a lot of other receivers there. And that's a throw that an NFL talented guy needs to ultimately make there. But give a ton of credit to Texas there. Give a ton of credit to their defense, and I think it makes it very interesting moving forward here how the committee will value their 3 losses, but also having 3 wins against top 10 opponents.
I feel like we got to give Arch a little leeway here. All right, this is his first full year starting an SEC schedule. Obviously, last year when he did play, he played against the cupcakes of Texas's schedule. So I feel like this is his first full season. The stress of being a starter under the gun. He's got people chasing him versus where last year he was kind of chasing Quinn to get that starting job. So like he was really playing with nothing to lose. This season, now he's kind of seeing, like the ups and the downs and, the highs and the lows of being the starting quarterback in the SEC. And I think Arch has had a fantastic season overall. Just under 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I feel like the negative plays is what we're seeing because it gets what's put in front of us because everyone's expecting Arch to be this Patrick Mahomes-esque type quality quarterback. And I just think he's got, just like you said, he's got some maturing to do. He's got some development that needs to happen. And I don't know, just like you said, I don't know if Texas is developing him the way that they need to be developing him because he's not improving. Just like you said, he works better when he's able to move out of the pocket, when he makes things happen on the fly, when he's improving. And that is a sign of a good athlete, but not a sign of a great quarterback. So he needs somebody there, whether it's in the quarterback coach, a quarterback coach change, or if it's a change of scenery, but we've got to find someone that can develop him into a better pocket passer overall. But hey, I think Texas has done what they had to do to make a case for themselves. Obviously, like we said earlier, earlier in the season, the committee did say they're not going to hold playing those tough matchups against teams. They did say that really like 2 weeks before the season started, which felt like a setup for this exact moment. Because if they don't let Texas in, then them saying that at the beginning of the year is for nothing.
Not true.
I think if anything, them saying that is more of an argument for Notre Dame. Like if I'm Notre Dame, I'm saying, and it's slightly different too because Notre Dame's not in a conference. So like if they had a tough conference schedule and they lost to Miami and A&M, like I think that would be even a different ball game there. But essentially, I think them saying that helps Notre Dame get into the playoff. But yeah, you lost to Ohio State, but essentially you're saying that, hey, you're telling the committee, and this is just kind of me summarizing it here. You're telling the committee, hey, we should be in the playoffs at 9-3 over a couple teams that are 10-2, because hypothetically, if you took away our one loss, and let's say we would have scheduled the Citadel or whatever, then we'd be at 10-2, and we'd be valued probably exactly the same because we ultimately have another loss like to Florida as opposed to Vanderbilt, whose losses are to Texas. I get it's a head-to-head matchup there, but Vandy's other loss was to what? Alabama or Georgia? Like it was one of those two. Like it was a big-time SEC school.
Texas got smoked on the road by Georgia by 25. OT Kentucky, OT Mississippi State, lost to a three-win Florida team. That's why they're not in right now. Not because they played Ohio State week 1 of the season. They went from number 1 in the polls down to number 6 after the Ohio State loss. They dropped down in the 20s when they lost to Florida.
Okay. So
that's why
those 5 spots right now.
Okay.
Texas is number 11, number 11 right now, and in the college football playoff. Without that,
but that's not. But drop. I think, but
they would have stayed
without that. You say without that 5 spot,
they dropped 17 because they lost to Florida.
Yeah, they would have been in the playoff at 6. Like 6, you're in.
Nobody's bitching about the Ohio State loss, but Texas fans, because that's the only argument they have. Because they still can't come to terms that they can't talk about losing to Florida. That is why they are 13th and not 8th. Or 14th and not 9th and in the playoff, because you lost to a 3-win team and got embarrassed in doing so. Alex, that is why you're not in. That's your 3rd loss.
Is it possible to go back to, I know it may be a lot, but is it possible that we can go back to that top 25 graphic? Yep. I just want to see something, see if we can help. All right, cool. So looking at Texas, obviously they're there at 16. Does anybody in front of them that let's just say have 2 losses? Because I mean, obviously wins are important, but I think losses are important too. Alex, I know you can agree with that. Is there anybody ahead of Texas right now that has a worse loss than Florida?
Oh God, I'd have to check.
Or even close. Or even close.
Here, I'll save you time. The answer's no.
Like, and if there's a team that you're kind of thinking about, like.
I'm trying to think of who everyone has lost to, and that's a lot of teams.
This is this is why this is easy.
Like I don't care. BYU's losses is to Tech. Miami's losses are to Louisville and SMU. Utah's losses to Tech, and they got another loss in there too. But
BYU.
Yeah. So Vandy's got 2 losses, and like I said, I know one of them was to Texas, and another one is to either Georgia or Bama. I just can't remember which one. I think it's the Bama. And then Michigan's. And then Michigan's losses are to Oklahoma USC. And USC. Like none of those are worse than Florida.
And Alex, you answered the question. If you take the Florida loss away, is Texas no wait, stop.
I'm not arguing for Texas. I'm just saying what they said the committee said at the beginning of the year is why Texas fans are pushing it.
But they didn't say if you're in a good conference to lose to one of the worst teams in there, we're gonna just give you a mulligan.
They're not gonna say that out loud because that's common sense. If you go and lose to a 3-loss team, it's gonna hurt. I don't care if they lost to Ohio State. It's a simple question. Keep the Ohio State loss. Who's their other loss? Georgia. Even that being a blowout loss, keep that loss. If they beat Florida, they're in. It's it. It's that simple. That is what's keeping them out. Don't give me the Ohio State bullshit from week 1. And other teams have been penalized more for getting blown out. I'll even look past that because it's Georgia because of the 4th-ranked team in the country away on the road. Don't even care about that. If you beat Florida, you have nothing to worry about. You're probably sitting in the 7, 8, 9 area right now with not a care in the world. Go home, eat more leftovers, watch football today because you're in the college football playoff. You're not in because you lost to a 3-win team, and you cannot reward that school for losing to a 3-win team over all these other teams that have 2 losses.
Texas would be on the 8 line. They'd be right ahead of Oklahoma. Well, depending on if the committee – they're both in the SEC. I think the committee would value that head-to-head matchup. Obviously, we see they don't with Notre Dame and Miami. Another argument for another day, but you'd assume that they'd be right there in that mix for the 8, 9, 10 area.
It's really that simple. I just don't want to hear the Ohio State thing. It has nothing to do with that.
Well, there's a lot of variables for example, that we won't have time to talk about right now. But like Florida's had 6 ranked losses. Texas has 3 ranked wins of teams in the top 12. So it's like there's a lot of variables, and you guys are just focusing on wins and losses, and there's a lot more wins and losses that goes into this.
I don't care. I don't care that Florida faced a lot of good teams and lost. Like I don't care. They have 3 wins this season. I don't care. They have 3 wins.
Well, no crap. They play 6 or 7 ranked teams this year.
Okay, so they suck. So they lost to every other ranked team except Texas. Yes. That means Texas should have won the football game. That's exactly what that means.
Exactly. It means Texas has no business going down there and being the one ranked team that couldn't beat them.
You know what exactly. You know what I love about this? You guys can argue with me all you want, but we don't control shit. And when Texas gets in, I'm going to be like, told you so. And I'm going to tell you why. And you guys are going to argue with me as far as why they're there. And I'm going to be like, because they told you. The committee told you how they were going to do this.
I think I said it last week when you guys said Texas was dead in the water. I said I thought there was a window for Texas to get in. I still think there's a window for Texas to get in. I'm just saying I don't know if it's necessarily right. And it's not because of the Ohio State loss, like to Bill's point. I think it's you take care of business against a 3-win Florida team. Because let's be real. Let's look at it like, you talk about them facing 6 ranked opponents or whatever the case may be. If Ohio State or Indiana or Oregon, if they would have lost to a Wisconsin team, we're having a completely different outlook on how we view them, even with some of the wins they have on their schedule so far this year. So I just can't ignore that Florida loss there. And it's not even just the Florida game. I've seen this team play a ton this season. I saw their game against Kentucky where they struggled for 3.5 quarters and found a way to pull it out. I saw the game against Mississippi State where they go to overtime and it took Arch having an incredible 4th quarter and their backup quarterback throwing a touchdown to ultimately win that football game. I saw them struggle week 3 against UTEP. So I've seen Texas play a ton this season. And I can't say definitively that they are a top 12 team in the country. I think they're in that discussion, of the 11, 12 teams there, but I just can't say definitively they deserve to be there, especially after them having 3 losses on their resume at this point.
We have another question here that's really interesting is what if Oklahoma loses today? I'm assuming that's referring to Texas's chances to make the college football playoff. Does that loss hurt them, help them? I think that's what they're asking is if Oklahoma loses today, does that help Texas?
It would help them. It would help them because it'd be head-to-head. It helps them. It not only does it help them there, it helps them with other teams that are around them. I mean, that devalues if Michigan pulls off the game today, that hurts Michigan because it's Oklahoma's, the loss to Oklahoma doesn't look as good. So, I mean, it absolutely helps Texas.
All right. Well, I think up next, we had
another one. Miles asked, "What's what's y'all's fave team?" Obviously, the Ohio State guy here.
It's an all national but Big Ten show.
Yeah, we got Ohio, we got Pennsylvania, we got Oregon, but he's a Michigan fan.
I'm a Michigan fan,
and I'm an Oregon fan. And you can probably tell if we had an SEC person in here as well, I think they would have somebody else arguing for Texas here. But I think because we're
it's my whole Twitter feed. It's like all because the official SEC football one is retweeting it, and it's hilarious because as soon as you go to the comments, the first 12 in every single thread is don't lose to Florida, don't lose to Florida, don't lose to Florida. They're acting like it didn't happen. And
if I'm honest, if I'm an SEC fan, I wouldn't even want Texas to make it in because I'd be worried about the potential embarrassment that they could cause us. Texas has the ability, while I think they can win games in the playoff because of their defense, I also think if they think about the matchup, first round matchup, Texas Tech would have the opportunity to absolutely embarrass them at Texas Tech. So I would look at it all right, let's just fall on teams that we know are good. Hopefully Lane stays at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is a true contender. We got Georgia, we got Bama. We got A&M. Let's just roll with them. I don't want to see Texas potentially fall on that 12 line and get absolutely embarrassed because it could be A&M, could be Georgia, could be Tech, like I said, could be Oregon. Like I think all 4 of those teams would give Texas the blues at this point on the road in a college football playoff.
All right. Well, let's say we got half an hour left in the show. We got some games kicking off, including the big game between Ohio State and Michigan. So let's jump to some previews before we look at our Eliminator Mountain and pick them. Bill, obviously, I'm assuming we're going to save the big one for last. But where are we starting?
We'll start with you. We'll go down to up to, I guess, for me and Cottrell. We'll go up to Husky Stadium.
Over to.
I mean, it's up. It's up. It's way more over than up, but it's still up a little bit. We'll go to Husky Stadium, Washington Huskies hosting Alex's Oregon Ducks. Rivalry game, big game. Game that once in a while produces a very surprise outcome, I will say, which makes it a good rivalry. I think this game's simple for me. I think as long as Dante Moore shows up and plays well, I think Oregon wins. I think Washington's defense will keep them in this game. I think ultimately Oregon's defense clamps down, gets stops when they need to. As long as Oregon can deal with Washington's defense and put points on the board, I think Oregon wins this game because I really think their defense can dictate this game. So I like the Ducks here.
Control?
I like the Ducks here as well. I think that ultimately Washington has kind of fallen off of where they have been, and I get it. This is a rivalry game; anything can happen. Washington does have a dynamic offense. It looks like Denzel Boston will be playing today as well. So I mean that's going to be a huge boost for Washington there. But I think Oregon is a team that's looking at it like, hey, we have everything in front of us right now, and I think Oregon should have some confidence, especially coming off of that USC win. So I think a couple weeks ago, I thought this game would be a little bit more intriguing, but just kind of given how Oregon has responded to their injuries and just responded to the pressures of these big games like Iowa and USC, I think they know what they got to do to take care of business. So I like Oregon to win this game. Not going to say it's a blowout by any means, but I do think it's a more comfortable win. I'd say probably very similar to that USC game. Maybe a little bit less points. I say like 31-17, 34-21, something along the lines of
that. So Oregon's going to definitely take care of business today. Obviously, the game's going to be close in the first quarter, maybe even the first half. Rivalry games always are. But Dan Lanning has a special hate for the University of Washington. His first couple of years and really his second year as the Oregon coach, losing to Washington not only in the Pac-12 championship game, but also earlier in the year, really kind of eliminating us from the college football playoff. He looks at Washington like our core rival, and Washington has faced 2 top 20 defenses this season, not being able to score more than 10 points against either of those teams. And the Ducks are the number 6 ranked defense in the country. I don't think Washington will find success. I think Oregon takes care of business. I think this is more like a 35-9, 35-10 game. Like I said, I think game is close at halftime, but I think Oregon's defense and Washington's lack of success against top-ranked defenses like Oregon is really telling. I think Washington's win against UCLA, they looked great, but this is a whole different ballgame they're walking into today to play these Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning's going to have them ready. I can't wait to hear what his pregame speech sounds like to get the boys riled up today. Because I always get pumped. I run through a brick wall for that dude. But yeah, Oregon's going to take care of business today. Kenyon Sadiq, look for him to have 5 or 6 receptions, close to 100 yards to be the number 1 receiver today. Malik Benson, look for the plethora of running backs to each have a touchdown today, and Dante Moore to take care of the ball, not cause any turnovers, and Oregon just going to sail the victory today. So,
well, I would say if you want to know what Dan Lanning's speech is going to look like, all you got to do is turn on a low-budget Tubi sports movie, and whatever the coach says in the locker room is what you're going to hear from Dan Lanning, because everything's are cliches and just normal everyday.
You're just jealous that Ryan Day is literally like a wet paper towel. Okay, that's his personality. Do you next week? I'm gonna come on here and I'm gonna have a 20-minute long loop of Ryan Day running to first base when he hit that ball against the softball. Remember that, Bill? I know you saw that video. If you haven't,
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well,
okay,
in
people,
the words
hold
of
on, Cottrell. If you have not seen this video, people in the chat, look up Ryan Day running to first base. That's all you need to know about the type of person. Oh, Bill's looking it up now. It is a classic. It is a classic.
all I'm saying is that Dan Lanning once famously said, "We don't play for clicks." In his pregame against Colorado, and I thought that was absolutely great. Like, it was perfect for that matchup there. But then it seems like every other week we're just getting these awful Dan Lanning analogies and things that get posted on social media where it feels like they're just playing for clicks. So
he's not posting them.
Of course not. But I'm just saying,
he knows he's being filmed though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sharon, I'm sure, and I'm not even saying that Sharon Moore is a great coach, but I'm sure Sharon Moore says things in the locker room to get his team hype. Obviously, Ryan Day does as well. And I'm not saying that any of them have the same personality as Dan Lanning either. I'm just saying that some of his stuff, some of the things that he says feels very inauthentic.
What are you talking about? Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, next game.
Let's stay on the bottom there. We will go. It's a tricky game. Miami visiting Pitt, who is ranked again after beating Georgia Tech last week. I've already said it. I think this is a very pivotal game, and I think this game, amongst others, will create change in the rankings next week. Giving Pitt a shared opponent with Notre Dame, already owning the head-to-head. If they can go on the road and beat a ranked Pitt, I think you see Miami move come Tuesday. I think you saw it with Oregon last week. They rewarded Oregon for playing a better team than Ole Miss did. Playing USC, Ole Miss played whoever the hell they played, and Oregon jumped them. I think I think the differences between these teams is becoming so small now. I think who you're playing down the stretch matters. If Miami can decisively win this game today against Pitt on the road, I think it's a huge win for Miami. And again, I think it's going to stir up a lot of how do we not count head-to-head. We already saw the outcome on the field. We saw it play out. It's got to matter. And Notre Dame is going to play Stanford tonight, I believe, who has 2 wins.
Yeah, but they're going across the country.
Multiple
hours, and it's a 10:30 Eastern time game.
Cool. They're on a chartered flight. They're not going out there horse and buggy over the Oregon Trail, bro.
We've had this conversation now about teams traveling multiple time zones and how it affects them. So I don't want to hear about that. That 34.5 point spread is not safe. Just saying. Just saying now.
Here we go. Anyway, big game for Miami today. Carson Beck, I think, has to show up. He's looked a lot better the last 3 weeks. Miami the last 3 weeks in general has looked how they looked at the beginning of the season before they took that little dip in quality. I like Miami here. I think Miami takes care of business, and I think Miami stokes another great conversation argument, not only for the rankings and our show, but every college football show. So give me the Hurricanes. Give me the U.
I got Miami here as well, but I ultimately think it won't matter as far as their rankings go moving forward here. Bill, you talk about the head-to-head matchups and it mattering in certain situations here, but look, Miami has been behind Notre Dame pretty much every step of the way here, and they play week 1. So I get it. Pitt is ranked. They're number 22 there, but I truly don't think that that's going to move the needle for them to move up, because if that's the case, then does that mean they also jump Bama too? Because let's not forget, Bama's sitting behind Notre Dame there. So I don't think that Miami will be jumping anyone. I think they're going to stay put there. If anything, I think Miami is just hoping that you have absolute chaos either this week or next week with, Oklahoma losing or Bama losing the Iron Bowl, or like they want pure chaos, I think, at this point for them to get in. I think they are the they're in the worst position of anybody, in my opinion, from 11 to 16, just because I think Michigan as a team that's behind them could potentially jump them down the line. I think Texas is a team that, you could have the conversations about, depending on how things fall there as well. So I think Miami's in a really tough spot there.
Here's one thing I'll say before Alex goes. They don't have to move Bama this week, because Bama's going to move next week one way or the other. So they're not in a position where they absolutely have to pick up Bama and move them forward or backwards. You can still reward Miami for beating Notre Dame head-to-head, move Notre Dame. Notre Dame wouldn't be out of it, because if Bama loses next week, Notre Dame will go right back in front of them. They don't have to move Bama. And even if they did, I wouldn't be mad, because at least Auburn's not great, but they're better than Stanford.
So, I guess my question on that, though, would be, right now, Notre Dame is at 9, Bama's at 10, Miami's at 12. Are you saying that you would move Notre Dame? Let's say Notre Dame, everybody wins. Notre Dame wins. You're saying that they would go back to 12 and Miami would go to 11, and Bama would stay put there. I just don't see a situation where Notre Dame falls 3 spots or Miami jumps Bama, because one of the two have to happen if you think Miami moves up.
I don't think you get too concerned with Bama, because Bama's going to move one way or the other.
But that's not – I get it that they're going to move one way or another if they win. I 100% understand that. What I'm not getting is, are you going to have Miami – after this week? I'm not saying Miami couldn't potentially get ahead of them if Alabama lose the ACC championship game. I'm saying for the rankings this upcoming Tuesday, are you going to, in your mind here, how you value everything, is it more possible that Miami goes up to 9? Or are you saying that I've already said Notre Dame out of the blue already? Bama plays Auburn, and I know they're better than Stanford. I get that. But you're saying that Notre Dame would fall not just 1 spot. It's not like Miami's right behind them. You think they fall 3 spots from 9 to 12 if Miami wins today?
I've already been on record saying I think Bama should already be ahead of Notre Dame. So,
I agree.
Again, all things considered, it's literally the number 2 thing on the checklist is head-to-head. You have a head-to-head. You now have another common opponent. So Miami would have beat Pitt just like Notre Dame did. So that's wiping out. So there's no advantage there.
Miami
for Notre
has
Dame.
to beat Pitt first. Let's
we're saying if this happens,
okay. Because only one of these teams in this game are fighting for the ACC championship spot, and that's Pitt. So let's not be all.
We're not saying we're not. Yes, we're obviously saying hypothetically if.
Let's not waste our time. We got so much stuff to talk about. Let's not waste our time on this.
I'm answering a question I was answered.
Miami's the favorite in this. Miami's the favorite in the football game today. I don't think it's crazy to say, what things could look like if they win. It's not crazy. I get Pitt's fighting for their life in the ACC championship game, but if things go chalk, having the conversation about Miami absolutely matters.
An ACC team that didn't even make their conference championship game is not jumping Alabama. Plain and simple.
I'm not saying they have to. Well, we're not saying that. If you would let me finish, I would have told you.
Then he's not jumping Notre Dame either.
I'm saying Alabama.
That's where I'm at.
Alabama should jump Notre Dame just like Oregon jumped Ole Miss last week.
I agree that they should, but what would
Oregon? Ole Miss jumped Oregon 3 weeks prior for a BS reason. They were just fixing it, righting the ship.
Okay, fine. Righting the ship, doing the same thing. Notre Dame's ahead of Alabama for the last 2 weeks, and they shouldn't be. So they can right the ship this week. Because guess who's not playing in a conference championship game next week too? Notre Dame. And their last 2 weeks are absolute disgraceful cupcakes. So if Alabama's finishing their schedule, playing a rivalry game against a way better team than Stanford, and then they're going to qualify for their championship game. Notre Dame's not. Notre Dame finished the season with 2 teams that combined have 5 wins. It's all got to matter at some point, man. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not here saying that Notre Dame should be where they're at. I'm just saying I would be I would be shocked if they move Alabama ahead of Notre Dame because Alabama won the Iron Bowl against the 5-win Auburn team. And I get it. They're a better team than Stanford. Like, I understand that that's the point that you're making. I 100% get that.
I just don't think you should be getting points for beating horrible teams. That's what happened with Ole Miss.
I would be shocked if that moved the needle. That's what I'm saying.
We had the poll discussion earlier, so let's keep this preview part of the show going. Or else we can keep talking about this forever. Pitt's beating Miami today. That's all that matters. Miami is going to miss out on college football playoff for the second year by a game. And
Alex
and
back
Pitt's,
with his agendas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how is that I want SMU in the ACC championship game. Only way SMU makes it to the ACC championship game is if Pitt loses. So that's not
I'm just saying
agenda.
the Mario Cristobal hate.
No, I want Miami to somehow get the 12 seed. And I want the Ducks to somehow get the 5 seed. And I want to see Miami. I want to see Mario Cristobal come to Autzen. That's my agenda. But none of this scenario gets me there. I'm just looking at the realism is that Pitt has more to play for today. Miami has a lot to play for today too. But I think Pitt at home takes care of business. The ass whooping against them that Notre Dame gave them a few weeks ago really whipped them into shape. Pitt's still a one-loss ACC team. I think Pittsburgh wins this game on a last-second field goal. Goes to the ACC championship game to play Virginia, which is the most random ACC championship game I've ever heard. Virginia versus Pitt, but that's what I see happening. Where are we going to next?
Of course, you go Miami. I mean, I think you're underselling them fighting for their season in general.
So is Pitt. Pitt's fighting for the ACC championship game and a college.
I get it. Nobody said they weren't.
22.
We just picked Miami. You're like, oh, Pitt's going to win because they're fighting. Like Miami just has nothing to play for. That's why they're going to lose.
No, I didn't say that. Miami just sucks. Mario Cristobal sucks. Big games, he sucks. Carson Beck shows what he can do in big games. I
mean, Carson Beck has a national championship.
Yeah, for George. Kirby Smart got him that championship. That's like he. It's not like he. Carson. I have to look up the championship game stats for Carson Beck. I don't remember how he played that game, but
he didn't play. He was behind Stetson Bennett, but he's.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's what happened. So yeah, he is a national champion on the bench. So Dan Lanning's a national champion too. Doesn't make the Ducks a national champion. You know what I mean?
Well, Dan Lanning didn't win it at Oregon as a coordinator. He won it at Georgia.
Yeah, it's the comparison of the two. Okay.
Next game, right. Vanderbilt at Tennessee. I'm tired of Alex's narratives.
Again, this doesn't help my narrative. I want SMU in the ACC championship game.
I will say this: Vanderbilt can throw their hat into the ring here too if they get a road win at Tennessee. Tennessee already has 3 losses; they're too far back. Even if they win this game, I don't think they can jump up enough into the conversation. Vanderbilt, however, can with only 2 losses. Ranked win down at Rocky Top, 14. They're already ahead of Michigan. Obviously, Michigan's I think Ohio State win if they win would trump this win, but. Vanderbilt just makes the conversation that much more tricky and messy. So that being said, I think Tennessee and Josh Heupel take care of business at home. I think that like that offense a little bit more than I like Vanderbilt's. I'm going to be sad to see Pavia finally go. He's been one of the best stories in college football the last 2 years. Vanderbilt will obviously play in a good bowl game. But I like Josh Heupel and that offense, I think, to put more pressure on the defense for Vanderbilt than Vanderbilt can do the other way. So I like Tennessee to win a close one at home.
Give me Diego Pavia on the road, man. I think this is his last
Swan
game.
Song.
Yeah, exactly. Swan song. I think this is everything that they've kind of been hoping for at this point in the year. Again, with you talk about Vandy throwing their name in the ring there, I don't think their season is quite over yet either. Again, I think there's so much stuff that can happen potentially ahead of them where if things get crazy, and I don't think they have the inside track by any means, but things get kind of crazy there, I think there's an opportunity for them. And it doesn't even have to be like too crazy. Like I could think of, 2 spots opening up right away. Bama lost in the SEC championship game and Texas Tech losing again to BYU. And you're already moving up a couple spots there. Of course, there would need to be more things that happen as well. But I like Vandy here, man. I truly think that they are going to come ready to play. And I think they're the better football team. So I like them to take care of business on the road.
I think Vanderbilt's been a fantastic storyline. I saw a headline, was it yesterday, that said Vanderbilt will never be the Vanderbilt of old ever again. And I completely believe that. I think that what Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt team and the coaching staff has been able to do to change the narrative at Vanderbilt, I think will carry it into the next generation after Pavia's gone. I think they'll continue to have success in the SEC, but not today. Not today. Today is Joey Aguilar's day at home at Tennessee. Joey Aguilar's had a fantastic season. He needs to eliminate turnovers today, and as long as he can throw one interception or less, I think Tennessee takes care of business. I think this is a really high-scoring game. I'm looking at like 32-28. But I think Tennessee takes care of business. I really like Deshaun Bishop, the sophomore running back for Tennessee. I think he goes over 1,000 yards today. He only has 114 yards left to hit that 1,000-yard mark. I think he gets that today, and I think Tennessee takes care of business against Vanderbilt to kind of end the season on a high note.
All right. One game left. Don't need to say much about it. It's called the game for a reason because it matters more than every other one on a yearly basis. I'll let Alex go first here.
Go first. All right. Well, I'm trying to see what the weather's going to be like today for the game. I heard a whisper of possible snow today. Is that true?
That is true.
Nice. Are we talking like snow? Or are we talking like dust?
Here he goes with this weather shit again.
This matters.
I mean, listen, in his defense, not you, but a lot of Ohio State people blame the weather in 2020 and the first time we beat you guys in forever. I'm just saying, not you, but a lot of people use it as an excuse. I think it's going to be similar to 2020. I don't think you're going to get like 2 or 3 inches on the field, but I think it'll kind of be cold, blustery.
Flurries.
I think it's flurries. It's going to be Midwest weather. It's not going to be pleasant.
Okay. I'm going to make this nice and short for us. Because of the weather, for me, I think that favors the better running team. And for me, the better running team is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I think if they use Bryce Underwood the correct way in this game, obviously he's got a big arm, big cannon. He has some weapons. Bill, what's the name of the wide receiver that's been really strong the last couple weeks for y'all?
Andrew Marsh, baby.
Yeah, he's been playing fantastic. But I do feel like if they let Bryce Underwood be Bryce Underwood in this game, let him use his size, his speed, and really maximize that rushing attack, and Michigan can control the clock, I feel like this game could be one of those 14-10, 14-13 Michigan-Ohio State slobber knockers that we're used to seeing. But I think Michigan takes care of business, and I think that is the final score. I think it's like 14-13, 17-14, one of those, and Oregon makes its way into the Big 10 championship game.
See, I was liking Alex's pick until the very end when I realized it was a narrative pick, and now I don't feel.
I picked Michigan last year too.
No, you did not. You picked Ohio State last year.
You picked Ohio State last year.
Yes, you did. That's why I was happy. You picked Ohio State last year.
No, I didn't. We're going.
You did, and I said you're trying to reverse jinx us, and that's exactly what happened.
Well,
I'm telling you, I remember it vividly. That's why I was happy. I'm happy that you picked
I'm pretty sure you did pick them last year. I mean, and as you should have. I mean, they were 21.5 point favorites.
What's the spread today? I haven't seen
10.5. Started, I mean, a couple weeks ago it was 14.5. It went all the way down to 9.5. It's back to 10.5, and it stayed there.
All right. Well, now it's your guys' fun time. I picked Michigan. Who's going to go first?
Cottrell's going to go first.
Yeah, away team.
I have no problem going first. And look, I get it. This is a rivalry game, and that plays a huge part in this. I think mentally, this is a game where Ohio State has obviously lost 4 years in a row, so that also plays a part into this. But I look at it like this: if I looked at this on paper and there wasn't an Ohio State logo on the other side of this Michigan team here, the way Ohio State plays is exactly what Michigan has struggled with so far this year. I look at it, the first game that Michigan has lost this year against Oklahoma, they let Mateer throw for 270 yards, and they only scored 13 points in that football game. The game that they lost against USC, They let Maeva throw for 270 plus yards, and they only scored 13 points in that football game. Objectively, Ohio State has a better offense and better defense than both of those schools there. And I look at it like this is going to be very similar to what we've seen in both of those games. So for me, and I know the rivalry plays a part into it, I 100% understand that. But I truly think this is going to be more of the same as far as what we've seen from Michigan in the big games this year. So I'm going with Ohio State. I think the score is closer to that 31-13, 27-10 kind of range there, where they cover the spread. I think you get a very close game in the first quarter there, but similar to what Alex's prediction was with Oregon and Washington, I truly think as the game moves forward there, I think Michigan's offense will start to stall and Ohio State will slowly start putting points up on the board. And by the end of the game, it may not feel like it was a true blowout or anything like that, but I think by the time we get to the end, you're looking at a score of like 31-10, 31-13, somewhere around there.
Well,
don't take that, Bill. Don't take that.
Don't have to take it. They were 21.5-point favorites last year. Debatably had just as good as offense as they did this year, and they scored 10 points. Defense matters in this game. This will be the best defense Julian Sain's seen by a mile.
That is not true. Texas is better.
Yeah, not week one it wasn't.
Not in week one. Not in week one it wasn't.
So, fun fact, last 4 years of this game, Ohio State quarterback has thrown at least 2 interceptions in every game. I think it continues today. If Ohio State cannot get Jackson going, and Julian Sain's going to drop back 40 times in this game, Wink Martindale will absolutely give him things that he's never seen before. I think he turns the ball over at least once, if not twice. Jordan Marshall's going to play. Running back wise, I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I don't think they're going to average 6-7 yards a clip. I'm not delusional. I'm not disrespectful. Ohio State has a top 3, if not the best defense in the country. I think honestly, I think a lot of it boils down to what Alex said. If they take the training wheels off Bryce today and just tell him to go out and play football and make plays and keep moving the chains, keep that offense on the field, I think they have a real shot to pull the upset. If we're going to go out and try to be tricky and do stupid shit like we've done at times this year and let Ohio State have an extra 2, 3, 4 possessions in the game that they shouldn't have, I think that spells disaster for us. From everything I've read, it's cold. It's not crazy. I just heard it's windy. So again, Julian Sain does not lack for arm strength either. So I think the curious thing will just be, if you're going one way, if there's a definitive advantage of throwing the ball one direction versus the other. I just don't know which way the wind's going, but I don't think either QB should be horribly, I would say, affected in not being able to throw the football. I think it comes down to execution. I think it comes down to, a lot of times what this rivalry does. It's execution, who runs the ball better, not taking stupid penalties, and I think toughness matters. I think Ohio State wants this more than they could possibly fathom after the last 4 years. I think there's still a lot of Michigan kids that are around that aren't going to be, they're not the prospect of this game is not too big for them. So I think it's a really close game. I said from before, I'm very, very comfortable with Michigan covering. I don't think 31-13 is accurate of where these two teams are. You bring up the USC game. The USC game got out of hand really more from our own doing than USC's. I've said that before. We had 15 missed tackles in that game. If we tackle well, I don't know if we win the game, but it's a damn close game. It's not what it turns out to be. I think Michigan to cover. I really do. I think they stay step and step. I don't think Ohio State's been punched in the mouth in a long time. Their last 5 or 6 weeks, they've gone out taking care of business like they're supposed to, but they haven't played a good football team in a while. They're going to play one today. So plus 10.5, I think, is crazy, especially the way this rivalry's gone the last 4 years, and especially after last year. I will gladly take Michigan.
Who are you picking to win the game?
Come on, bro. Dude, I've been 4 years in a row. I'm not messing up what I've said. It's worked 4 years in a row. I'm sticking with my thing.
Brother.
Sticking with my thing.
Well, hey,
Wow,
there we have it, y'all.
That's Portnoy. He just says outlandish things. Sometimes he's right. A lot of times he's wrong.
But if y'all need a schedule today, as soon as we're off the air here in 2 minutes, kickoff Ohio State and Michigan. Following that, go watch Oregon and Washington on Paramount Plus or CBS. Those are your 2 games to watch today to start your day off. Just saying that now.
It's going to be a great football day.
Absolutely. But it's finally time. We're at Eliminator Mountain. Then we got Pick'em. And then we got football.
Look at all those dead teams. And look, he put Michigan back on the mountain.
I know.
I told you. See, Texas is back at base camp because we don't know about them. And Vanderbilt, they still have an outside chance. They're still sitting at base camp as well. I added Georgia Tech to the cemetery this morning.
I like it.
Creates better drama for next week.
Yeah, and it's honestly, I should have put Pitt up there, to be completely honest with you, because Pitt still has, and SMU. Pitt and SMU are still sitting there.
SMU will be at base camp next week. Pitt's going to not be here, so it's okay.
We'll be Tombstone and Pitt.
Well, and Virginia plays Cal today, so Virginia still has to pull off a win today. Or SMU plays Cal today. Virginia played Virginia Tech yesterday. Never mind. SMU plays Cal today. So ACC will be decided after today as well. But that is Eliminator Mountain, y'all. You got the standings on the Pick'em?
Absolutely.
Look at that. Washington State got me more Superdog points last week. That is 4 times Washington State has gotten me Superdog points.
Well, listen, I will go. I will actually go quick here because 2 of my games are actually already done. I had Georgia Tech plus 13.5 versus Georgia. That won for me already. I also had Arizona minus 1.5 at Arizona State. That won. And then my last one, it's the game. Give me Ohio State minus the 10.5 at Michigan. I'm not confident in it that I'm picking it in my pick 'em. And then for my super dog, I got Stanford plus 32.5 versus Notre Dame. I think they're going to cover that spread there. I think that's a ridiculously high number for a rivalry game, and Stanford's at home.
You were talking crap earlier about my Stanford.
I wasn't. I just said it was
What's your picks?
I'll go quick because we talked about pretty much all my games already. So Purdue plus 28.5 for my super dog. That did not pan out last night. My three real picks though. I got Miami minus 6.5 at Pittsburgh. We already talked about that. I got Oregon minus 6.5 at Washington. We already talked about that. And my last one, Alabama minus 5.5 at Auburn for the Iron Bowl. Give me the Tide. So I'm taking the 5.5 there as well. So those are my 3 picks.
I like it. Who was your super dog?
Purdue, who got the paint just absolutely smacked off their helmets.
Who was your super dog?
Yeah. Purdue.
Okay. All right. So my picks here, making quick. I got Duke minus 1.5 at home against Wake Forest today. I think Duke takes care of business. Darian Mensah is going to end the season on a high note. Washington State has been my super dog darlings today. They're taking care of business in their second matchup against Oregon State. Minus 13.5 points to the spread. Washington State is going to cover that at home today. Alabama, 4.5 points was what the line was this morning. So Alabama minus 4.5 at Auburn. And then for my super dog, teams traveling across multiple time zones are 35 and 43 against the spread. I am taking Stanford, the Stanford Cardinal, no S, to cover their plus 32.5 spread against Notre Dame. Book it. That's what we got.
All right, boys. Not a big closing here. We're getting ready to kick in Ann Arbor. I would wish Cottrell luck, but I wouldn't mean it, so I'm not going to say it.
Wouldn't mean it either.
Alex, good luck in your endeavor. That's not nice. See, I was going to wish you good luck. No, I don't care.
Nope.
Well, Alex only has like 2 games left in his football season, so just let him enjoy it while he can.
Oh, see.
Well, yeah, I got today. I got the college football playoff or the Big Ten championship after Michigan beats you. and then I got the college football playoff. So at least three games.
Okay. Solid rebuttal. All right. Any closing statements, gentlemen?
Nope.
I'll see you in the chat. That's the
Chat.
doom. I'll see you in the chat.
Chat will be lively today. Until I inevitably break my phone, probably. So if I stop responding for hours, I'll just, once I meet up with Gene and get a new phone tomorrow, I'll be back.
Goodbye.
Later, boys.